At midnight, someone knocked on my door. 3 slow, deliberate knocks, the same way my best friend's killer knocked the night she died, and when I looked through the peephole. He whispered my name. The first time he knocked, I thought it was the wind. In Briar Creek, the wind carries everything. Dust, pine needles, even the occasional loose shutter slamming like a warning. But that night, the sound at my door was too deliberate. 3 slow, heavy knocks, like someone testing the weight of the world against my front porch. I remember freezing in the middle of my tiny living room, one hand gripping my coffee mug, the TV glow flickering across the floorboards. It was almost midnight. No one visited me at midnight, not anymore, not since the murder. I'm Emily Carter, 31 years old, lifelong resident of Briar Creek, and if you ask half this town, the woman who probably killed her best friend, they don't say it outright. Not where I can hear, not where Sheriff McKee has to pretend he'll look into it. They just lower their voices at the grocery store. Glance at me like I'm a stray dog that might bite, but they remember last winter. They remember Lila, my best friend since 3rd grade, found dead in her home. They remember I was the last one to see her alive. What they don't remember is that the real killer is still out there, and that tonight. Maybe he'd come back. The knocks came again, slower this time. 3 thuds that traveled through the wood like a heartbeat I didn't want to claim. I set down my mug and reached for the baseball, but I kept leaning against the entryway cabinet. An old habit since Lila's death. My breath was shallow. Shaky. I told myself it was probably some drunk tourist lost on the wrong county road. But tourists don't knock like that. Tourists don't know that I'm the only house at the end of Wren Road. Tourists don't come on nights when the moon hides behind clouds like it's afraid to watch. I approached the door, my bare feet cold on the wooden floor. The porch light flickered for a moment. An old bulb that never quite committed to staying alive. Who's there? I called out. No answer. Only the creak of my porch boards shifting under unseen weight. My heart kicked against my ribs. Every instinct screamed not to open the door. But fear does strange things. Makes you braver, or dumber, or some twisted combination of both. I pressed my eye to the peephole. At first I saw nothing, just darkness, heavy, impenetrable, then movement. A figure leaned in, just enough for me to catch the outline of a face, or maybe the lack of one. The porch light flickered again, and for a second the stranger's features appeared. A man, all pale, wearing a black hoodie. Coat soaked from the rain I now realized had begun to fall. His eyes. God, his eyes were wrong. Not angry, not desperate. Expectant, as if he knew I'd be there looking back. Miss Carter, he said, his voice muffled but unmistakably calm. We need to talk. My blood iced over. How do you know my name? I whispered. He didn't answer. Instead, he lifted a hand, slowly, and knocked 3 times again, deliberate, rhythmic, like a code. Once, twice, 3 times. The same way Lila's killer had knocked on her door the night she died. I stumbled back from the peephole, hand flying to my mouth. Memory came crashing in. Lila calling me in a panic that night, saying someone had come to her house. She never told me who, only that the knocks were strange, slow, 3 at a time, just like this. Open the door, Emily. The stranger said softly. The softness somehow made it worse. It's important. My breath shook. I tightened my grip on the bat. Go away. I choked out. Another pause, and then I know what happened to your friend. My whole body turned to stone. The floorboards creaked again as he shifted his weight. Rain pelted the roof, the gutters groaning. I forced myself forward and looked through the peephole again, but the porch was empty. The man was gone, just vanished. A cold gust of wind swept across the yard, bending the trees like they were bowing, and then, faint but impossible to miss, I heard it again, 3 knocks, but this time they came from the back of the house. My entire body screamed run. Instead I froze, because right then, for the first time since Lila died, a horrifying truth settled into my bones. Someone was hunting me, and they wanted me to know it. The knocks at the back door were softer, but somehow more threatening, like whoever stood there didn't need force to get inside, like they knew I'd break on my own. My legs finally listened to me, and I backed away from the hallway that led to the kitchen. The house felt too small, its shadows suddenly stretched and twisted in unnatural ways. The rain outside picked up, slapping hard against The windows, for a moment, I thought about calling Sheriff McKee, but the last time I'd asked for help, when I swore someone had been watching my house a month after Lila's death, he'd sent a deputy who did nothing but shine a flashlight around and tell me I was still grieving. Maybe I was. But grief doesn't knock 3 times, and grief doesn't know your name, Emily. The voice floated through the back door, muffled by storm and wood, but clear enough. I nearly dropped the bat. He'd moved from the front porch to the back of my house in seconds. No footsteps, no sound, just that voice. "You need to listen," he said. "Time is running out." I squeezed my eyes shut. Go away. But he didn't. Instead, knock, 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 steady, precise, the same rhythm that had haunted my nightmares since the night Lila died. I needed to see, needed to know if he was real, or if my mind was collapsing under a weight I'd been carrying alone for months. I forced myself toward the kitchen. Every step felt like walking into a deeper kind of darkness. The back door's small window was foggy with condensation, rainwater trailing down it in snaking lines. Some part of me wished I'd see nothing, but I did see something. Someone. A silhouette stood on the back porch, all unmoving, as if carved from the storm itself. A hood covered most of his face, but I recognized the posture. Too still, too confident. He knew I was watching. I didn't kill her, he said through the door, but I know who did. My heart slammed so hard it hurt. Lila, sweet, bright, stubborn Lila. The girl who used to sneak me out to the lake after curfew, who always believed this town was too small for secrets, and yet she died because of one. I swallowed hard, hands trembling. "Who are you?" Instead of answering, the stranger slowly lifted his hand and pressed something against the window, a small, folded piece of paper, wet around the edges from the rain. "Read it," he said. I shook my head. "I'm not opening the door. You don't have to." His tone remained steady, emotionless. "I'll leave it for you, but if you want to survive the next week, you will read it." A fresh bolt of fear shot through me. Survive before I could respond, he stepped back. For a split second the porch light flickered, and his face appeared enough for me to see part of it, a scar running from his cheekbone down toward his jaw. Then darkness swallowed him again. Another flicker of light and he was gone. Just like at the front door, I stood frozen for several seconds, gripping the bat so hard I felt splinters press into my palm. My breath came in short, uneven bursts. Finally, I forced my legs to move. I unlocked the door just enough to reach down and grab the folded paper. Rain blew in, cold and sharp, stinging my skin. When I shut the door again, I stood in the center of the kitchen, staring at the note like it might explode. Then I unfolded it. My throat tightened. The handwriting was rushed, slanted, almost like it had been scribbled while running. I recognized none of it, but I recognized the message. "He's coming for you next. Don't trust anyone in Briar Creek. Meet me where she died. Midnight. Come alone." My stomach dropped. Lila had died in her own house. A house that had been boarded up for months. A house only I had the key to, because her parents couldn't bear to keep anything that reminded them of the investigation. The note slid from my fingers. A storm rumbled outside, louder than before, thunder cracking like something splitting open in the sky. I backed away from the counter, my pulse beating in my ears like a countdown. Midnight, where she died. Alone, I didn't want to go. Every rational thought screamed run the other direction, leave town, never look back. But I also knew one thing better than fear, if someone really knew who killed Lila. I had to find out, even if it meant stepping into the place where her blood had soaked into the floorboards, even if it meant meeting a stranger who vanished like smoke, even if it meant I wouldn't come back. By the time the clock hit 11:40 p.m., the storm had calmed into a steady, cold rain, quiet enough that every sound in my house felt amplified. The drip of water hitting the porch, the hum of my old refrigerator, my heartbeat thudding against my ribs like a warning. I grabbed my jacket, stuffed the note into the pocket, and locked up. The night smelled like wet earth and pine needles as I stepped outside. My truck sat under the lone street lamp on Wren Road, its light buzzing like a dying insect. The ride to Lila's house took 7 minutes, but it felt like crossing into another life. The old Carter, Langley Place stood at the edge of the woods, its windows dark, its porch sagging, its no trespassing sign tilted like a broken jaw. It looked dead, like it had been waiting all this time. I parked a distance away and approached on foot, rain dripping off my hood. Every memory of Lila threatened to surface, her laughter echoing over the lake, her secretive smile the night before she died, the way she had whispered, "If something happens to me, don't believe what they say." I hadn't understood. I hadn't asked enough questions, and the guilt burned like wildfire under my skin. At 11:58, a branch snapped somewhere behind me. I spun, gripping the baseball bat I'd brought. Emily. The voice wasn't behind me. It was beside the house. The stranger stepped into view from around the corner, all drenched in black, his hood pulled low. But now, up close, I could see the scar on his cheek more clearly, fresh, the kind that hadn't fully healed. He raised his hands to show he wasn't armed. "You came alone," he said quietly. "You told me to, and you listened." He said, "Good. That means you want the truth." I swallowed hard. "Tell me who killed her." He hesitated, long enough that the rain started to feel like needles on my skin. Then he nodded toward the house. "Not out here, inside." "I'm not going inside," I whispered. "But you are," he said, stepping past me, "because that's where she died, and that's where everything began." The front door groaned as he pushed it open. My stomach turned at the sight inside. The place was frozen in time. A layer of dust coated the floor. The living room furniture remained where her parents had left it. A blanket still draped over the couch. One of Lila's mugs on the counter, and in the center of the wooden living room floor the dark stain, the one they could never fully clean. My breath shook. The stranger watched me, then motioned toward the stain. "That's where she fell, I know," I whispered hoarsely. "And that's where you were standing earlier that night," he added. My head jerked up. "What? You were here before she died?" A chill ripped down my spine. "Who told you that?" "I saw you." My heart dropped. "What are you talking about?" "I wasn't. You were," he said firmly. "2 hours before she was killed. You came to warn her." "Warn her? No. No." I hadn't. Images flashed in my mind. Me standing in her kitchen, her face pale, her hands shaking, her saying she was in trouble, her telling me she didn't know if she could trust me, but those memories were blurred by panic from that night. I'd blocked half of it out. My therapist had said trauma does that. I don't remember, that's why I'm here. The stranger said, because you forgot what she told you, and because the man who killed her thinks you remember more than you do. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the stranger's face for an instant, and in that flash recognition hit me, not from town, not from news, from Lila. "You knew her." I breathed. He nodded once. "We were friends in college, more than friends once." His voice tightened. "She called me 3 nights before she died. She said someone in Briar Creek had found out something she wasn't supposed to know." My stomach clenched. "She never told me. She didn't tell you who." He stepped closer. "But she told me." Rainwater dripped from his hood onto the dusty floor. He was extorting her. The stranger continued, threatening her, following her. She said he had knocked on her door 3 times, every night. My breath stopped. "In the night she called the police," he added. "They never came. Someone made sure of that." A sickening realization stirred in my chest. Someone from town. He nodded. Someone with power. Someone the sheriff reports to. My pulse hammered. The county had only a handful of people in positions of authority. The mayor, the town treasurer, the real estate developer trying to buy up half the town. My eyes widened. "You know who it is," I whispered. The stranger reached into his coat. For a moment I tensed, thinking he might pull a weapon. Instead, he pulled out a flash drive. "This has everything," he said. "The emails, the threats, the financial records, all the proof of what he did to her." Trembling, I reached for it. A gunshot exploded through the house. Glass shattered behind me. Wood splintered. The stranger shoved me to the floor instinctively. slamming into me hard enough to knock the breath from my lungs. The second shot tore into the wall above us. "Run," he yelled, but it was too late. Footsteps thundered on the porch, and then a figure climbed through the shattered window, a figure I recognized instantly. Sheriff McKee, rainwater soaked his uniform. His face was twisted in fury, but what sent ice down my spine was the gun in his hand. "Drop it." He snarled at the stranger. "Drop the drive now." I stared, numb. "Sheriff," he glared at me. "You weren't supposed to be here, Emily. I warned you to stop digging. You..." My voice cracked. "You killed her." His jaw tightened. "She should have stayed out of my business. So should you." The stranger slowly rose, hands raised. "You won't get away with this. I already did," McKee said coldly, "and nobody's going to miss a stranger with no address and a girl everyone already thinks is unstable." He turned the gun toward me. For one frozen moment, everything stopped. Every sound, every thought, every heartbeat. Then the stranger moved first. He lunged at McKee. A shot rang out. The flash drive slipped from his hand and skittered across the floor. I grabbed the bat. McKee swung his gun toward me, but I was already moving. I slammed the bat into his wrist with every ounce of fear and anger and grief I had carried for months. The gun clattered to the ground. McKee roared and tackled me, but the stranger barreled into him from behind. The three of us crashed to the floor in a tangle of limbs and shouts. Another gunshot, a scream, a sickening thud. When I scrambled up, breathless and shaking, McKee lay unconscious, maybe dead, on the living room floor. The stranger staggered back, clutching his shoulder where blood soaked through his coat. "Emily, the drive," he gasped. I snatched it off the floor. My hands trembled as I tucked it into my jacket. "We have to go," I said. "We need to call the state police." His legs wavered. He collapsed to one knee. I caught him before he fell completely, lowering him gently. "Stay with me," I begged. "Please." He looked up at me, eyes glazed but determined. "Promise me," he whispered, "you'll bring him to justice. For her. I promise." He exhaled shakily and nodded. Lights flashed outside, red and blue. The state police. No. Back up. McKee must have called them before he came here. I turned back toward the stranger, but he wasn't looking at me. He was staring weakly toward the back door. "Go," he said. "If they find the drive on you, they'll bury it. I'm not leaving you." But he shook his head. "I'll slow them down. You run." Tears blurred my vision, but I grabbed his hand and squeezed it once, hard, before backing away. Then I ran, out the back door, through the rain, into the woods. Behind me, voices shouted. Flashlights cut through the darkness, and the last thing I heard was the stranger's voice, faint but fierce, tell her story. Epilogue: 6 months later, the courtroom was packed when they read the verdict. Guilty, Mayapole McKee, brother of the sheriff, was led away in handcuffs for extortion, obstruction, and the murder of Lila Langley. His brother, the sheriff, had been killed during the attempted arrest. The truth had come out because of the flash drive, because of the stranger. I sat in the back, my hands shaking with relief. When the judge dismissed the court, I stepped outside into the bright afternoon sun. Spring flowers bloomed along the courthouse path. Life had begun to return to Briar Creek, but one thing still haunted me. The stranger had disappeared the night I escaped. The police found blood in the woods, but never found a body. Sometimes late at night, when the town is quiet and the windows rattle in the wind, I think about him, about the scar on his cheek, about the way he risked everything for a woman he once loved and a town that never knew his name. And sometimes on nights when I sit alone on my porch, I hear it, knock, knock, knock. But when I open the door, there's no one there. Maybe it's the wind, or maybe he's still out there, watching over the place where she died and where I live. Either way, I whisper the same words into the dark. Thank you for saving me, for telling her story. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.